Don't lock the doors. They lock the doors, and Jesus steps through the wall and says, peace to you. You guys need this. Touch my hands. Touch my side. They do. Peace I leave with you. I send you the way the Father sent me. Receive the Holy Spirit. Who sends you retained, they're retained. Who sends you forgiven, they're forgiven. And then 24 says, now, Thomas. It's almost like John knows that in the future, Thomas is going to get a bad rap. Here comes, now, Thomas. What's Thomas's great failure in the Gospels? Well, it's not really a whole lot different than his buddy's failure. Remember, none of them believed it was Jesus till he put his hands out and they touched his hands and touched his side. Thomas just gets a bad rap because he wasn't there the first night they locked themselves in. When he shows up to the next meeting where perhaps they've unlocked the door, they say, you're not going to believe this, but he was here and he's real and we saw him. And Thomas says, well, I won't believe until I see him, until I touch him. I need to see to believe. And Jesus comes back through the wall, makes another appearance, and puts his hands out to Thomas and says, touch my hands and put your hand in my spear-pierced side, because I want you to see that I'm real and that I have flesh and that I have bone. And Thomas proclaims, oh my Lord and my God. And this is the first time that a human being has ever called Jesus God in the Bible. He's been Son of God, but no one's ever said, my God. And so there was a revelation there in that room where Thomas receives him as God. Jesus is giving to Thomas what he has given from the Father, the giver of peace, the giver of a commission. Jesus replacing your old view to give you a new view so that you understand who he is. And yet none of us were in that room. None of us get to touch his nail-scarred hands. None of us get to put our hands in his spear-pierced side. So Jesus says to the assembled, Thomas, you believe because you've touched my hands and my side, but blessed is the man who can believe and not see. Because some of the people that you're going to meet in the new kingdom are going to be people who do need to see to believe. Okay? They're going to say they need to see a miracle. If they see a miracle, they'll believe. The reality is that nobody believes because they see a miracle. If that were the case, Israel would have kept believing. Israel saw miracle after miracle after miracle and yet stopped believing. So seeing a miracle doesn't make you a believer. It might make you a temporary believer as long as you see a miracle. How many of you remember Jesus fed the crowd 5,000, fed the 5,000 bread and fish? And then the next day they showed up for another miracle. And Jesus said to them, you're not here because of the words that I spoke to you. You're here because I filled your bellies. And they said, well, if you'll show us a miracle, we'll believe that you're the Son of God. You believe that? If you'll show us a miracle, we'll believe that you're the Son of God. No, you won't. I just showed you a miracle. I fed all of you with a little kid's lunch last night. You still don't believe. What makes you think if I feed you again, you're going to believe? Because it's not true. So how do we show them? If people that need to see to believe, how are we going to show them? Perhaps it's time for all of us grace people who've spent so much time bad-mouthing good works because you can't do good to get good, right? No way. You can't do good to get good. How can you do good to get good? Because you're not good naturally, so by doing good, how are you going to become the righteousness of God? You need Jesus to do good on your behalf. But we've bad-mouthed good works in the Grace Church for so long that anytime somebody says, hey, some good stuff ought to be coming out of your life, we shut the TV off or move away because we don't want to hear anything about performance. The reality is we ought to be having good works come out of a good tree. You are the sons of God. What do you expect come out of you? Bad works? You were created for good works. Peter said there are bad works, evil works. Peter said that war against your soul. That's the seatbed of emotions. And so when a child of God, when one of God's sons finds himself slopping hogs, it'll never feel right. It'll never feel like home. It'll never feel good. So how are we going to convince the Thomases that this kingdom is real? We're going to have to live it. If we talk about being people of joy, we ought to have some. If we talk about being people of gentleness, we ought to have some gentleness. If kindness is one of the fruits, by God, we ought to be kind once in a while. I don't mean go be kind so you can be righteous. I mean go be kind because you are. It's going to be that which convinces. What did Jesus say? They shall see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven.